Welcome to Links and Locks Action Network's golf betting podcast presented by Bet365. I'm your host, Andy Lack, and I'll be joined alongside Action Golf contributor Tony Sartori for these Best Bets episodes. Tony and I will play 18 holes today, giving our 18 favorite picks for this week's tour event, the PGA Championship. Before we dive into this week's episode, a reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. Okay, Tony, we're on the tee here for our PGA Championship Best Bets. Get us started.
All right, I'm going to go back to a guy that we talk about so much on this podcast. There's going to be some question marks with him this week for sure. That's Ludvig Aberg at 21 to 1, at Bet365. I think 21 to 1 is a relatively generous price that is baking in the concern about his knee injury that forced him to withdraw out of the Wells Fargo. So there's two ways you can look at it. I personally think it's more maintenance rather than injury, given his recent form prior to that withdrawal. And on the practice round today, I was kind of seeing some conflicting tweets. I was seeing that he was kind of reaching for his knee a couple of times, but then everyone seemed to be saying the swing speed was still there, the flight path was normal, he was still ball striking well. They said the results of his play looked the exact same. It was just he was grabbing the knee here and there. So that is the concern, and that's why he's 21 to 1, but I think it's worth still taking a chance on him despite this concern at that number. I mean, prior to that withdrawal, he had fired off 16 straight weekend appearances on tour, boasts 11 top 15 finishes over that stretch, including a win at the RSM and 3 other runner-up finishes, with one of those runner-up finishes coming at Augusta, where he was the only guy on Sunday battling Scheffler. Yes, he was like 4 or 5 strokes back, so I don't want to say he was like 1v1 dueling Scheffler, but he was the closest guy in the field to attempt to take Scheffler down. And if he can do that there, I think he can do that at Valhalla this week. At just 24 years old, we keep saying he's the next guy up, right? He's going to get a major soon. It's going to come down this week to, one, can he hang with Scotty and the big boys up top, and two, how's that knee going to hold? But at 21 to 1, I think the knee concern is worth pushing aside at that number.
Love that play. I'm going to stick in the same range of the odds board and roll with Jon Rahm at 20 to 1. I just think anytime you are getting who potentially still may be the second best player in the world, at worst, in my opinion, a top 5 player in the world at 20 to 1, you take the bait and you swallow it. And that is a bet that you can sleep comfortably at night with. Shades of Muirfield Village in this golf course, right? A Jack Nicklaus golf course that favors a power cut off the tee. When I went through this golf course, there were a number of holes where I said to myself, man, this is a perfect golf hole for a cut, just like Muirfield Village. Really tends to favor Jon Rahm's type of ball flight, his power off the tee, his long iron play. He has been the #1 player in strokes gained total at Muirfield Village in his career in this field. He's had another great finish as well at Bellerive, which is another PGA Championship venue that played on the easier side, like I think we can expect this week, and also also has Zoysia fairways. Combine that with the fact that whatever you want to say about Liv, he has been, along with Joaquín Niemann, a player I'll get to later, the most consistent performer on Liv all season. He has not even played his best golf, and he has yet to finish outside of the top 10. I think that he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder still for the decision that he had. He's got to be upset following his disappointing finish at the Masters. I really think Jon Rahm shows up this week. I'm expecting a strong performance from the 2-time major winner.
I'm going to keep us in the live category. I'm going to keep us in the outright winner market. I'm going to go after Bryson DeChambeau at 28 to 1. I think I would wager that he's going to be one of the most bet on guys this week, because all you're going to hear all week is about how Valhalla is a monster golf course. And obviously everyone knows Bryson hits it a million miles off the tee, and big hitters will benefit here. But I don't care. I'm still gonna kind of go with the public here, and I'm gonna be all over DeChambeau at 28 to 1. So we're looking for bombers here, right? But not at the sacrifice of accuracy, because I mean these are still the third smallest greens that we've seen on tour thus far this season. So, but that's why I like DeChambeau at this price. We already know about the long hitting, but his accuracy has improved as he's been more accurate than the field average in 3 of his past 4 tournaments. Yes, 3 of those were live events, so take that for what it's worth. But the fourth event was the Masters, and he finished sixth there. So he's proven that, hey, going over to live where the competition is a little less, I would say, than like say signature event over on tour. He came right over in a major and finished in the top 6. So his game's still there. This venue is going to benefit his style of game more than Augusta does. So at 28 to 1, I love DeChambeau this week.
That was my next pick as well. I'm gonna echo your Bryson sentiment. I have a future on him from many months ago because when I broke down this golf course in December, I thought to myself, this is the perfect golf course for Bryson DeChambeau. I already mentioned the Jack Nicklaus Muirfield Village correlation, a golf course that Bryson has won at in the past. There's also some shades of Oak Hill here with the narrower fairways, the smaller greens, the thick rough, the PGA Championship setup. And, he's showed us a lot at Augusta. I was pretty skeptical heading into the Masters. I agree with you in the sense that Valhalla is a better golf course for Bryson than Augusta is, just in a vacuum. So to see him perform so strongly at Augusta, to see him gain over 7 strokes off the tee at the Masters, I think you could pencil him in to come very close, if not lead the field in strokes gained off the tee this week. And we've seen what Bryson can do when he's had his best. I mean, I think all of the bets that you make this week need to be viewed through the prism of, do you think this player can go toe to toe and beat Scotty Scheffler? Do you think this player has the ceiling to hang with Scotty Scheffler in a Sunday final pairing? And there's a lot of guys that you answer no to that. And I think Bryson's one of the few guys where I've watched him win a US Open by 5. And I would answer yes, that when Bryson is at his absolute best, he can go toe to toe with Scotty Scheffler. So Bryson, I bet a future on him a while ago, but I still endorse all the way down to whatever his current number is at the moment.
Absolutely. I'm going to keep us in the outright and go a little further down, more of a flyer here. This is almost like a principal play for me, and I totally get why the number is ballooned. But Will Zalatoris right now is 75 to 1. I get it. I get he just shot like an 80 last Sunday, and he's been terrible over the past 3 tournaments. So I totally get why the number has ballooned. But if you're going to give me Zalatoris at 75 to 1 in a major tournament, I'm going to blindly take that number every time, regardless of what kind of form he's entering the weekend. He's a guy like Koepka where he elevates his game at major championships. Yes, he's struggled mightily over the past 3 tournaments, and there's injury concerns, and it makes sense why the line is so long. But Zalatoris just finished 9th at the Masters. In fact, he's made the weekend in 5 consecutive majors with 4 top 10 finishes over those 5 events. That's a pretty ridiculous trend, and that's always been kind of thing with Zalatoris. He's shown up in majors, and then he's kind of drifted away when it's in the more lesser events. He definitely plays up and down to his competition. And again, it makes sense that the number's this big. If he misses the cut, I wouldn't even be shocked because he's clearly kind of laboring out there and not playing his best golf. But just out of principle, I can't pass up 75 to 1 on Zalatoris in a major championship.
I think that's a great bet. I cannot believe the number is so high. I am going to stick in the outright market. Little bit lower tiered here in the odds board, but another lift player. I'm actually going to go with Joaquín Niemann, 34 to 1. Is still available on Bet365. I bet a 40 this morning. I like him all the way down to 35. I just love the way that Niemann has been playing on the Live Tour this season. He has been the best player on Live this season. He's been better than Bryson. He's been better than Brooks. He's been better than Rahm. I know that he does not have the major champion success that those players do have, but I actually think that is baked into the number. And I actually kind of like the fact that he's coming in a little bit more under the radar this week. He was a big storyline heading into the Masters about whether he was going to get an invite to the Masters. He made those comments about major championships and feeling like the play that he was doing was being not recognized. And, he was fine at the Masters. He didn't play his best and he still finished top 25. I think the shine's like a little bit off him now. I hate to, honestly, it's more on players like Taylor Gooch coming over from the Live Tour to see how they're going to perform. And then obviously you've got your big storylines with Brooks and Rahm and Bryson. And all Niemann has done even before he went to Live was perform on bent grass golf courses, right? His best career finishes, his best putting performances have all come on bent grass golf courses. He played great at Muirfield Village, great at Olympia Fields, great at Winged Foot, great at Detroit Golf Club. He's had a great at the Greenbrier. He's had like a lot of success on this type of golf course in this part of the country on this style of agronomy. So I'm going to go with Joaquín Niemann 35-1 this week.
Yeah, I thought you said that best, that the shine's kind of off him. He's a hell of a golfer, and I like that play a lot. He just missed my card as well. My final outright winner play, it's going to be a bit of a long shot here, but I think it's worth a flyer at this number, and that's Minwoo Lee at 80-1. Really just kind of talking about Aberg and like how next generation's top talents coming through, kind of Zalatoris too in a way. I think Minwoo Lee's name is left out of that discussion far too often. He's not on the level of those two, but he's at 25 years old. He's still proven that he's a very, very skilled golfer with a high ceiling. He's made the weekend of 4 consecutive majors, including his fifth place finish at last year's U.S. Open. I think Valhalla will also set up nicely for him, considering that he has gained distance over the field in 9 consecutive tournaments to kick off his tour season. His accuracy in the ball striking has improved as the season has progressed as well. I think honestly his accuracy is kind of why he's more at 80-1 instead of like 70, 65, 60-1, because it did start kind of poor to begin the year, but he's looked better. It's just gone on, and he's still only 25. He's going to continue to improve. And do I think he can take down this field? Probably not, but 80-1 is just a good flyer to take if you just want to throw some fun money on that one.
Yeah, I actually have Minwoo on my card, so I'll jump over to that. I bet I'm top 20 plus 260. So maybe a little bit less confidence in you. Maybe I'm being a little bit less ambitious with this
No, you're
play,
just being a
but
lot smarter.
I love the fit on this golf course. Like I not to echo everything you said, but I think the power that he has off the tee, the putting upside. I mean, Minwoo Lee finished top 20 at both the US Open and PGA Championship last year. And like I said, there are shades of Oak Hill in this golf course. And I think that because of his skill set, the power off the tee that he possesses, he is going to be like a great PGA Championship and US Open performer for years to come. He just has that skill set, almost like we talked about with Bryson a little bit earlier. Not saying that Minwoo Lee is the player that Bryson is just yet, but in terms of a player that is top 10 in this field in distance, has the ability to get hot on the greens, has some very solid success thus far on bent grass. Big fan of Minwoo Lee as well. So happy to join you on that train.
I'm going to keep us in the top 20 market as well and go after a guy that I know you like as well. Usually, I don't know if you're on him this week or not, but that's Cameron Davis, top 20. He's plus 500. He just finished 12th at the Masters last month and fourth at last year's PGA Championship. So I'll gladly bet on him to grab another top 20 finish at 5-1. Davis profile as well here, considering that he's a long hitter off the tee, but also accurate in the ball striking department. I don't think his ceiling is necessarily there for a win this week, but the floor is there for sure. I think at least he's got a high floor, and there really isn't a flaw in Davis' bag, which makes me like his game so much. If you look at what he's done this year, he's tremendous with the driver, very strong with the putter, and the irons have done their job. It's kind of when you get to the wedges and greenside play, things kind of maybe get a little bit more sketchier for Davis. But Valhalla is a course where you need to be better with the long hitting clubs anyways. And even if his wedges aren't necessarily there, I think his putter can save him if he's it's hard to have long putts because the greens are pretty small, but I think his putter can save him regardless. It's just a guy where we just saw him finish 12th at the Masters. So if you're going to give me 5-1 on him to finish top 20, yeah, I'm going to take that again on Cameron Davis.
I am going to go back to the top 10 market and talk about a player I'm surprised we haven't mentioned yet. That's Brooks Koepka. I couldn't find room for him in my outright card, but I don't know if there's a player in this field that scares me this week more than Brooks, non-Scotty Scheffler division. He has been the best US Open and PGA player of the last decade. He has the opportunity this week to become the best PGA Championship player up there with Jack Nicklaus and Walter Hagen as one of the best PGA Championship players ever. He is coming off a win at Live Singapore. And Brooks tends to show us, right? If you look at his last three PGA Championship victories, he finished top five in the prior start beforehand, every single one. So he likes to tell us, he likes to show us, he likes to peak for these weeks. I've mentioned there are shades of Oak Hill in this golf course. I've mentioned there are shades of Bellerive on this golf course. I actually think that Valhalla combines a lot of aspects of Oak Hill and Bellerive. I think that, the smaller greens, but the easier piece of Bellerive being an easier PGA championship, which Zoysia fairways. I think there's a lot of Bellerive in this golf course. And so, Brooks at plus 170 to finish top 10. I know he's been back in the lab grinding after a disappointing golf course. I've got to admit it. I'd be pretty shocked if Brooks is not relevant in this tournament.
I would be as well. I'm gonna go back to the top 20 market one more time, and I'm gonna go after Harris English, who's also plus 500 at Bet365. So English has finished inside the top 20 four times over his past 13 tournaments, which is not a dominant trend, but it makes 5-1 a very profitable number over that stretch. Furthermore, English is in good form with 6 top 20 finishes over his past 14 tournaments, with just one cut over that stretch. So again, so the first trend was for majors, and then that second trend was for the tour this season. Both trends would be very profitable if you're getting 5-1 each time. This is a high floor player that has been pretty good in pretty much every aspect of the game this season. He's gained distance on the field in 15 consecutive events. And like we said, you want to be a long hitter here. I think English can get away with it for sure. And use a lot of room for error. You still finish inside top 20 at 5-1. So that's where I'm going to go with Harris English.
I like that play. I'm going to take us back to the top 10 market and go with another Live player, actually. Promise I'm not paid by the Saudis for these picks, but I just happen to think there's a lot of value on these guys. I'm going with Tyrrell Hatton, top 10, plus 500. And I mentioned Oak Hill and Bellerive, right? Brooks has won at both those golf courses. The only other player in this field to finish top 20 at both those golf courses was Tyrrell Hatton. Um, he's been playing great on the Live Tour this year. His iron play has been unbelievable. I like the fact that he showed up at the Masters on a golf course that he doesn't particularly like, and he still found a way to finish top 15 there. I think Valhalla is actually a much better setup for him than Augusta was. And he's coming off another performance at Live Singapore where he gained over 6 strokes on approach. I don't know if he's got the major track record where I've seen him in contention at majors enough time to trust him to win. But I think 5-1 to finish top 10 is a great bet on Tyrrell Hatton this week.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go to the first round leader market, and as always, I'm waiting to actually lock in these first round leader plays until tee times are announced. So keep an eye out for my first round leader article here this week at the Action Network. But with that said, as long as these guys aren't like I'm on the last groups out, then this is the direction I'm heading. And the first guys this week is gonna be Cameron Young, who's 50-1 to lead after Thursday. Analytically speaking, Cameron Young has been one of the best golfers on tour this season, not possess a victory. He hasn't closed at all, but at this point, so at this point, I trust him far more on a Thursday than I do on a Sunday, especially when you look at the other kind of big guys in this field. But he's made the weekend in 16 consecutive tournaments with 6 top 5 or top 15 finishes over that stretch. Young has also posted 5 top 10 finishes over his past 8 major tournaments. So we know he can elevate his game against higher level competition. And he's also gained distance over the field in all 8 of those major events. So I don't know if the adrenaline gets him a little more, but he starts to really hit the hell out of the ball when we're in these major championships, which will obviously bode well for a course like Valhalla. So if he can elevate his game against these guys, I don't know if he's taking down the likes of Scheffler, Koepka, Rahm, Rory over a 4-day sample size, but I think he absolutely has the skill set to lead after one round.
I like that. I have one or two top 20 and 40 plays I'll get to, but I'll join you in the first round leader market. I'm gonna go with Viktor Hovland 40-1. Now, Viktor Hovland, I thought when I broke down this golf course in December, like if I was building a golf course for Viktor Hovland, it would be Valhalla. The thick rough around the greens, the performance at Muirfield Village, the performance at Olympia Fields. the performance at Oak Hill, like these longer, thick, rough golf courses with, Zoysia fairways like East Lake and bentgrass greens. This has just been Viktor Hovland's total jam. Now, he's not played good golf on the PGA Tour this season, and that's why I probably don't trust him. I don't think he's quite sharp enough to win this tournament. Uh, but he led the field in approach play on Sunday at Quail Hollow. And I do think that he is trending in the right direction. And I do like playing guys that have performed well in a final round on Sunday, being able to carry that momentum over into round one of their next start. Um, he has also, I looked this up. I was looking at round one performances in majors, and the only players that this is over the last 5 years, round one in majors. The only player that's been a better round one player in majors than Viktor Hovland is Scotty Scheffler. So number one, two in round one majors over the last 5 years is Hovland and Scheffler. And so if you're giving me 40-1 on a guy, which is a tremendous course fed at 40-1 coming off the best approach performance in the field at Quail Hollow, sign me up for that one. Viktor Hovland, 40-1 first round leader.
I love that's such a good buy low number. Once he will turn his game back around eventually. Once he does, we're never seeing those prices again. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go first round leader again. I'm gonna go after Matt Fitzpatrick, who is 70-1. Fitzpatrick enters this week in good form with 6 straight weekend appearances, boasting 3 top 11 finishes over that stretch. He has gained distance over the field in 10 of his 12 tournaments this season, which, as we keep mentioning, will be key at Valhalla. Like I was just talking about with Cameron Young, Fitzpatrick has elevated his game at majors, gaining true total strokes against the field in 15 consecutive major championships. That's a pretty insane trend for a guy who just really seems to elevate his game when he's facing higher level competition. He boasts 8 top 25 finishes over that stretch, including his win at the 2022 US Open. So I am slightly, at least a little bit worried about his accuracy within the ball striking and maybe putting himself in some bad situations along the rough. And so that's why I'm kind of more confident backing a guy of this stature in the more volatile first round leader market than I am over a 4 day sample size. But at the end of the day, Fitzpatrick, he absolutely can like hang with the big guys when he's swinging the club well, and he has been recently. So at 70-1, so I think it's worth a shot on him to lead after the first round this week.
I'm going to take us back to the top 20 market and go with Shane Lowry, plus 320, top 20. Lowry has just been flushing the ball lately. And I know the putter has been a weakness for him. I actually think the easiest aspect of Valhalla is once you get onto the greens, like these greens are not super undulating, they're not super contoured. I do think that this is a place that a lot of bad putters will be able to get away with, will be able to succeed at. And Lowry has just been hitting the living cover off the ball. He's had a lot of success on longer bentgrass golf courses, right? Like almost winning US Open at Oakmont. He's won at Firestone before. And his ball striking numbers this season, like I think they go very underrated because of how poor the putting has been. But I'm not asking him to make enough putts to win a golf tournament. I'm not even asking him to make enough putts to contend in a golf tournament. I think that the plus 320 number on him to finish top 20 is a steal.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That's actually a perfect transition for my final play because you just talked about how you kind of get away with the weaker short game. And that's why I want to go after Keith Mitchell in the first round leader market. So this is 125-1. So this is absolutely like a sprinkle play, long dart throw. And the reason I want him in the first round leader market is like if it is Sunday and it's Scotty Scheffler and Keith Mitchell, I have absolutely no faith in him coming down the stretch and winning this thing. But I think there is a world where he gets hot in the first round, and it is possible that he leads on Thursday. And so here's why. We just talked about how you can get away with the poor short game. That's the only thing that's really held Mitchell back this season. He's gained distance over the field in 12 consecutive tournaments, boasting 7 top 20 finishes over that stretch. His driver's been good. His irons have been good. His approach play has been good. It's really just been the short game, or he's need to scramble off like the fringes of the greens. That's where Mitchell really gets held back. But again, like you just said, Valhalla is a course where you're going to be rewarded so much more for your ball striking and how hard or how far you or how long you hit it versus your ability to putt on these small greens anyways. So at 125-1, I think there's worse dart throws to make in the first round leader market than Keith Mitchell.
Yeah, that's perfect timing because The final play that I have written down on my sheet is Keith Mitchell top 40 plus
Oh.
175. So, not to echo everything that you just said, but just to keep it brief and add, like he's always been one of the best drivers of the ball on the PGA Tour, but this year he's added to his arsenal long iron play. He has turned into one of the better long iron players on the entire PGA Tour. As I mentioned with Shane Lowry, I think this is a golf course that heavily accentuates driving skill and heavily accentuates long iron approach play. And I think with Keith Mitchell, you are getting such a great buy low candidate in terms of his skill set because we haven't seen him really pop up in majors yet, but he has every bit the skill to do it. So huge fan of Keith Mitchell this week. I went with him in the top 40 market at plus 175. That'll do it for our best bets episode for the PGA Championship. Before we get out of here, a final reminder that the Links and Locks podcast is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. As a reminder, our action experts, Spencer Aguiar and Nick Bretwish, return with host Roberto Arguello tomorrow for our PGA Championship betting preview right here on the Links and Locks podcast. So for Tony Sartori, I'm your host, Andy Lack, and we'll see you back here next week on the Links and Locks podcast presented by Bet365.